The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King is a 1984 full-on YA-esque fantasy novel that I had been putting off reading for a long time. I have read a lot of Stephen King over the years, but I've sort of like avoided his more like fantasy, his fantasy themed books. The Dark Tower series, I'm coming for you next. I'm going to read you. But anyways, I decided to give this one a try. I took it out on the Libby app. I read it in audio version through my library, and it was a delightful experience. It's a book that's almost meant to be read to you. Like, I am very hit and miss with audiobooks. Like, some books, they just don't lend themselves properly to that format, I feel like, or they have the wrong narrator, or just like so many different things, and I would just rather be reading because I read at a quicker pace than I can listen. But this one, it just lent itself to that format, and it was sort of like having someone read you a story before bed or tell you a story around a campfire. It had a real folklore fairy tale quality to it. And part of the reason for that is because the narrator of the story is sort of a third person narrator who is almost a character and really does kind of inform the reader or the listener how they should be feeling throughout the story and what he hopes that you get from the story as you're listening to it, which is interesting. I think that is one of the things that kind of makes it seem a little bit more YA. It also drops a lot of red herrings. Like, it'll tell you a big plot event before it happens, and then it'll go back and like fast forward to that event. Which I enjoyed. I didn't mind that. Maybe some people would be bothered by that, but I thought it was really good. It is the story of two brothers and their father, King Roland, who is the king of Delain. And Peter is the oldest brother and heir to the throne. And he is wonderful. He is good looking. He's polite. He's amicable. People love him. He's like athletically minded. And, he is like meant to be a king. It's like he was born to be a king. And then there's the younger brother, 5 years younger. His name is Thomas. And he is not an evil person. He's just not Peter. So he has to go through his life without his mother. He knows that his mother died in childbirth when she gave birth to him. And with a father who thinks he's hiding the fact that Peter is the favorite, but he's really doing a bad job. Like, it's very obvious. And he just sort of lives in the shadow of his brother, and his jealousy and his bitterness can really get a hold of him. There's also a character, his name is Randall Flagg. He is a dark wizard and advisor to the king, and he's always kind of sort of in the background pulling strings and feeding thoughts to people and trying to figure out a way that he can have more control of the kingdom. And he does that by poisoning the king and framing Peter for it, the oldest son. Peter goes to prison, and Thomas is aware that this has happened and becomes aware that this has happened, but he doesn't, and although he didn't do it himself, he does benefit from it, and he says nothing, and he becomes king at 12 years old. And Randall Flagg, the dark wizard, sees Thomas as an easy target and as someone who will allow him to make decisions in the kingdom and really have all the power in the background. It is a story of how Peter deals with his time in prison. And does he escape? We don't know. Well, I know, but like, does he escape? Does he become king again? Does Flagg get defeated? And what is Thomas's role in all of that? And it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. So if you like fantasy and you kind of like a true YA fantasy feel, I would say to read this book. The only caveat I will say that I was kind of disappointed, because this book was dedicated to Stephen King's young daughter at the time. There really aren't any notable female characters. Like, there is Queen Sasha, who is Peter and Thomas's mother, and she seems very wonderful from what we hear of her. But, you know, she immediately dies. Or there is Roland's grandmother, who was queen before she also seems like a really smart, strong lady, but we don't really get to know very much of her because she dies so Roland can become king. Yeah, it just seems like there could have been maybe a more notable female character in the story. Just my opinion, but there wasn't, and it was still enjoyable to read. There are some like kind of weird parts, like just sort of like with Roland getting married and loving his wife, but then not being able to like make love with her without this like secret potion that he gets from Flag. And I don't know, it's that part's kind of like funny. And I'm not sure what the coding for that is or what that totally means, but yeah, no, it was a great book. I would recommend it if you feel like you've read all of Stephen King's other books, like if you've read the big ones, like if you've read Pet Sematary, and if you've read The Stand, and if you've read The Shining, and 11/22/63, and all these books, and for some reason you've been avoiding reading maybe some of his lesser known works, you should read this one. I think you'll enjoy it. The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. This is kind of a spoilery review. I will write that down in the comments, but even with what I've said, I think you'll really enjoy it. It all kind of happens pretty quickly, and it becomes quite apparent what's going to happen. But it really is about Peter's journey to justice. So, and also really it's about, do we think that Thomas is a bad person, or do we think that he's evil, and does he deserve forgiveness for his actions? So, The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King.